Uh, I'll go now dwell a little bit in the book. So the book has is structured like in four parts, which you call guidelines. And the first one is actually know yourself, or know thyself. And from I'm not trying to give away a lot of from this book, but it's more related on psychometric tests around your behaviors and your defaults and so on. Could you explain how you want to approach like the first guideline, which is
well, what I've done is I've limited it, Edward, to 6 particular things that I think are important, and I'll explain why it's important. Paul J. Meyer, who was the founder of LMI, which was the founder, if you like, of LMA, which you went through their course, was one of those American gurus of very vocal in the 60s and 70s. A little bit like the Stephen Covey of this world as well. And one of the things he said is, unless you understand yourself, can motivate yourself, then you will never be able to understand and motivate other people. So it's critical to motivate and lead and understand yourself. So if we're looking at that, the easiest way to start understanding yourself is to, if you like, have somebody guide you. And what I've tried to do in the book is put a couple of questionnaires that get you looking at, what are my values? What do I want to achieve in my life? The second thing I've said is, we don't all communicate in the same way. So sometimes I've got a style that suits the way I think. I think in a particular way because that's my nature. That's the way I was brought up. You can watch in a classroom when you put up too many slides and people just get lost. And yet other people love slides and just want to do that. Other people like to do exercises on a table or whatever it might be. So understanding your learning style so you know how to communicate and react with people. Know why some people click your hot buttons. Why do some people you just don't get on with? Because they're too detailed, or they're too flippant, they don't take enough attention to what they're doing. The other thing that's really important that I've put in this part of the book is knowing your strengths. And the way I would explain that is Buckingham, way back at the early part of the time, it's now done by the Gallup organization, but Buckingham, Marcus Buckingham, way back in the 95, 96, created a book which was called Know Yourself. And what it was to know your strengths. Now, if you think about it, often a company takes you on because they've heard about you or your qualifications look great. And within a few months, they're sending you off for courses to rub off what they see as the rough edges. There's been several books that have been written about, for goodness sake, don't knock off the rough edges. That's what you liked about that person. That's the strength. And even though sometimes they can be slightly disruptive, they're bringing a quality that's important to the sustainability and long-term growth of the company. So know your strengths was important. And the final one that I've brought in, there are 2 psychologists, Honey and Mumford, Honey and Mumford, and the other one was Kolb. And both of those guys both of those teams created very similar models, with Kolb being the first and the most detailed model. But they both put slightly different words to it. And what I've done in the book, because depending which part of the world you come from, different models are used. I brought the 2 models together and ended up with some tables allowing you to actually end up reading Kolb, but understanding if you'd only gone through Honey and Mumford, that you could understand the words. So the know yourself thing, in my view, is well worth going to. And by the way, in the book, there is a link to go and do a Displex at a discounted rate. I organized through the people that do Displex in America. They actually do it for LMA, and or some of the LMA agents, not LMA itself. But I actually asked them if they would give me a special rate for the book. And there's a link in the book, but there's also a link on my website to the book page to everything that's linked in the book. Go and get it, have a look at it. This stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and control, or compliance.
Actually, in saying that, I actually did this test, and I found it disturbingly accurate. you know, when you have some traits that you don't quite, you are in denial about them, and it's really fascinating.